So if there was ground control to Major Tom. All right. What can we say about IRC? There's obviously still a few people out there that are at least occasionally using it. Some people that have some experience with IRC. Anyway, here's Roden to tell you all about it.
Well, wow! Thanks for all coming. I didn't think many people would come for this one. It was when I thought of the title and just overall the history of using this little IRC network, I thought, it was at least a semi-good story. And all the good friends here and people have used it for many years, longer than I have. I've been around it almost 10 years, and it's just by chance that I got involved with it. When I was younger, I had a brush in with the police, and there's only one community that I thought could understand what I was going through at that time, and so I was like, I reached 2600, and so I got really into it and started a 2600 meeting, and met a lot of cool people and whatnot, and then throughout the years it took a little while, but I met a lot of these New York guys and started coming to this conference. But a lot of crazy things have happened over the last 2 years, which are kind of funny, and other times it's just a whole lot of trolling and bullshit. But a lot of good people here use it, and also the good trolls, and
All of you, basically.
And sometimes it is a little much, where we are friends at the cons and stuff, but sometimes the trolling is just kind of ridiculous. So people can be like, oh, it's IRC, don't worry about it. It's like, no, you're right, don't worry about it. And don't complain when you're banned because you trolled for 3 weeks. It's like, okay, we get it, dude, you're a dick. So it's just a simple little IRC network, but we put enough into it to keep it up through all the crazy stuff, like, the LulzSec showing up, and all the DDoSes before that would take out, the Triple H years ago. So, what did you say, Openfly? Well, that was before me. More than 10 years ago, AutoJack, took a baseball bat to one of the servers. That's what the story. Three servers. See, that was before me. And so when I got with it, it was, it was just a few of us. It was like Shardy back in the day, and from the Triple H and other people. And then eventually I met this guy through Telefreak. Mm-hmm. And so Beav started helping me host it, and other people. And didn't take a whole lot of direction from Emmanuel, but we still try to keep it 2600 for this community. And with as little poking and prodding at it as possible, it's just a little IRC network. So we try to run it as stable and transparent as possible. Simple software, and but we can all have a lot of stories about what's happened over the last 10 years. So that's the basic overview. And did want to introduce some other people that have used it, and definitely this guy. We did a talk in Germany. This is kind of an extension of that, but this is more about 2600 and what this network's experience versus just hosting any online community. So just related to IRC, this is a little bit of that. So what can you say, Beav?
The baseball bat idea sometimes sounds very, very nice. I'll have to take that into account. Just like with any community, there can be lots of infighting and stuff like that. But the one thing that I always take from it is it's fucking IRC. It's all it is. So whenever it gets too out of hand, I'm usually sometimes probably a little bit better than Rodent is to be able to walk away and just go, fuck it, man. It's just IRC. So I don't take it nearly as personally. But the denial of service attacks get kind of old. Yeah.
And you can only throw so much at it. Unless you start spending a lot more money protecting it, and other different hosting and whatnot. So, it's just a simple IRC network. So we're not going to dump a bunch into it. So people DOS on it and crap on it, and we keep it stable and secure. But that's one thing I struggle with, is some people expect us to protect their anonymity, and it's like, oh, go anonymous. Like, okay, dude, go for it. But they're like, you're not masking our host mask, and you're not protecting our identity. And it's like, no, we don't make any claims to any of that. It's like, that's your responsibility. We keep the IRC network as stable and secure as possible, but being anonymous, you can't just use only Tor, and
How many systems did S3 break into?
None of my systems. That was before me. So in the last 10 years since I've been doing it, we haven't ever had any big hack problems, just a lot of DDoSes and, crazy stuff. And one thing that's been interesting is I'm not one, Emmanuel said that it should be taken care of by the community. So I'm not one to run to the cops or the feds or whatever, when someone DOSes us. Like I said in Germany, it's like, I don't care what they do out on the internet, just leave us alone. It's so ridiculous. So what I started doing is when people DDoS us, filter out that information. We don't do any logging, but when they DDoS us, we get all the PCAPs and I just publish it out to everyone. So if there's any botnet researchers and people who want to screw with it, sure, go ahead, here's your botnet. And so a lot of times they say it's no big deal, but then later on, they end up losing a lot of their botnet and have to kind of start over again because other people in the community took care of it. So it's interesting, all the people that you meet and all the craziness, but there is some redeeming factors with it. And so a lot of those redeeming factors are some of these people in the front row here will troll constantly and, So.
Do you have slides? Or?
No, I got a little bit of,
Oh, okay, I didn't know, wasn't sure.
The beginning was, after I had a little brush with the law, I started with the 2600 meetings and then started using the crappy network as it existed. And it was crazy. They could barely keep it up and all these problems with it. And so I started hosting it with Shardy. I threw him a box and that became part of the policy. I was like, I run a data center. I can give you all kinds of hosting, way more than hosting it off your DSL line. And ended up getting involved that way, where Shardy was like, well, you have to be involved. You can't just give me an empty box and let me do it. He's like, you do it. So that's how it started. I got involved with this damn thing. And so yeah, the LowSec thing was interesting. When they showed up, they're like fans of ours, but then also they ended up just DOSing us. So that's why and there's no arguments or anything. They're just like, we're leaving, and then in the Indy 5K wars, way before that, was just some crap kid who had a friend's botnet and for no reason just wanted to DOS the hell out of us. Other people lost their connections. So now we host it all in data centers and it's isolated from all of our personal stuff, and it's just an IRC network. So if you hit it, you're just going to expose your botnet. And the trolls, we deal with it as much as we can, and just try to keep in the spirit in which what little Emmanuel has said as far as running it. He kind of just lets us run it and the community runs it, and I try to respect the brand, as far, if you want to call it that, 2600, but that's the IRC network. So it's small, but there's very much a core group of different people which have come about all throughout all the 10 years. So last man standing as far as hosting it after all the crap is me and Beeve, and then we got a couple British guys, but they're usually drinking a lot, so it's hard to get them around. So, but we know them, and they run a secure server. So, but we're also on the Chaos VPN. We try to connect with other different communities, and that's one thing about security and anonymity. There's other services that we can work with and can do that make it better. And here's a guy in Chaos VPN.
Why are you guys not linked up with Triple C anymore?
We are still linked. Oh, the hack-int? Well, that was when, let's see.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah. You want to talk
that
about that
was-
drama? So,
Somebody didn't like you calling on the RC server.
oh, see, this is one of the trolls that we get, OpenFly. Throughout the years, he would prefer to run it like where everyone is opt, and it'd be just constant war all the time. So, and he's always made this argument forever and ever. So, I mean, whenever he, wants to run the network, it's like, sure, you can try to do that in your own channel. It doesn't work for 2600 necessarily. So what else can we say? I mean, the big hack-int split was something where a couple channel operators, or not channel operators, but hosting operators and people who had been involved with it for a long time just kind of changed their mind one day and didn't want to have hack-int linked with that. And so the only way I could keep them not stomping on 2600 and having a conflict there is I had to split the network. So, I tell it, it's a special community that requires special care. So we're still friends with Hackett, and we can connect via the Chaos VPN, but what was that?
We're special needs people.
It is a special needs, particularly in IRC. It's definitely a special needs community. I mean, And I try to put as little management into it as possible, but I just like to
Yeah,
chat
that's
with a
right.
couple of my friends, and
Right.
you have to really adjust the signal to noise ratio in the public channels. So what was your experience through some of your worst times?
Well, I mean, it's mostly the denial of service stuff. What I always find interesting is, so for instance, a lot of denial of service attacks that we get, they usually will spoof addresses and whatnot. But every now and then you'll have a special case where a kid doesn't know how to use the tool that he's using to do the denial of service. So he gives up all the IP addresses of his little botnet or whatever. What I've always found interesting was dealing with the companies, like calling them, like calling the different organizations to see what kind of different responses you get out of them. Because of course, whenever I call them, I try to act like this is a mission critical application. This network cannot go down, which is complete bullshit. But anyways, that's not the way I put it. So whenever I get on the phone with them or whatnot, I portray it as that. And then some responses are really quick and they're really good people. And they say, oh crap, really? That's happening? Somebody in our network is attacking your machines or whatever. I'll jump on this router and add an ACL and we'll get this all taken care of. Other ones you deal with are just give you things like, are you sure your computer doesn't have a virus on it? And I'm like, yeah, it's called IRC. That's the whole fucking thing. It's a mess. But so so you get a different range of responses from different organizations. Some of them tell you that you need to wait for 24 hours before they'll mitigate the attack, which is just great. It's like, oh, so you're going to attack me for 24 hours, and I can't really do very much about it. And then other providers, for instance, even the providers that we necessarily get links from, some of them are really good, some of them are really bad with dealing with denial of service attacks. So it's always interesting trying to even educate them on what the hell is happening, and then educating them on what you're doing with the server in general. Just forget it. But just to so that anyway, that's pretty much it.
That's the hardest stuff. I mean, well, I dealt with that a lot as well.
The politics side of it and the when people will fight and stuff, you notice I don't usually get involved in that.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, that's part of the policies.
I mean,
with the
to a
channel
degree.
operators and network operators are kind of keep it separate. Since there isn't many people who are really involved with like protecting the 2600 channels and whatnot, I end up having to do it a lot.
You do, yeah.
Instead of just
You actually
hosting it, where you respond to email every couple weeks and be like, "Is it DOSed?" No.
Right. No, I just don't. Whenever silly little arguments kind of come up, I find them silly. I mean, I'm sure to the people they're not very silly at all, but they are.
They're important to OpenFly.
Right. But I don't like to get involved in that. What I want to see is the network work and be as stable as we can make it and just function. And that's about as far as I go with it. Like on what people do in channels and whatnot and what they talk about, I don't really care. I mean, that's their deal.
Well, that's what we try to do as far as assigning certain people to run different channels. When new people come on the network, sometimes they just come and go. But when they come, I've tried to just keep people, involved. And if they were in a local geographical location, we'll let them run that channel. But there's a lot of people who don't know how to use the IRC. So the support requirements of it is like, man.
Yeah,
I just let them like, no, you figure it out. And they're like, protect my anonymity.
Right. Yeah, I get lots of messages like that.
Yeah. So you just have to ignore it. But also, all the. Well, that's the thing. It's like
I
people
don't do
abuse
that.
Tor all the time to flood and to troll and whatnot. But we try to allow Tor, but they make it really hard to.
So yeah, I mean, think about it. Yeah, the flooding through Tor, so you're going through and banning all the different nodes, so you can keep people. But then you don't. It's not like you don't necessarily don't want Tor to be able to be used, but it's just the nature of people using it to screw with other people.
Well, the rule is, only ban the abused ones. So it takes them a while to get through all the abused ones. And so there's a lot of Tor nodes out there. But there's been lots of discussion about banning Tor. And FNet does it, and we try to not have to do that, but it's almost...
It's like it's a kind of a catch-22. If you don't do it, then people use it to screw with other channels, then people can't communicate as efficiently. But then if you do block it, then you're taking away a piece that they can use for the anonymity part. So it's kind of like this big pain in the ass, basically.
Yeah. So what else can we say about the middle history? I mean, we're still hosting it 10 years. What I wanted to do and start introducing is trying to get some of the local hacker spaces to link to it and open it more than it is. There's only a few people that host it and run it. We've been doing it a long time, and every once in a while I ask for a little bit of direction from Emmanuel or local people and whatnot, but you know, there has to be more involvement. It's still there, it's stable, but I'm not going to keep doing it forever, man. It's just stinking IRC. Like, but I've also known that if it wasn't for us for a long time, it wouldn't be there. You know, last time it went down was like in 2003 permanently, or right before that, and then it was resurrected by us and Shardy and when it all started. But if we just let it go, it will just totally go away. I mean. Well, that's one thing too, is when it was totally owned.
Right.
Well, I guess that's a good community bonus for us, because it hasn't ever been rooted in 10 years again, and no one's, no.
Right, yeah.
Well, that was before me when we switched it. If you look at the network now, it's all the pirate network. No, when Ted, the databases, when he ran off of the databases, Shardy and everyone, we restarted the network from scratch, and it became the pirate network, and all the servers are named after pirates, and no one's ever gotten to the databases since. So we keep the hubs and the databases private, and that way those can't be DOSed. We can always bring up more servers. And today with like VPSs, it's really easy to just pop up VPSs and other servers all around the world. But I want to link with more hackerspaces and more groups that are trustworthy and doing good stuff out there. Like the title, My Life with the Thrill Kill Code. There's a lot of groups out there that aren't necessarily too copacetic to sharing information and so on. They're just like LulzSec or The Jester, you know, and it's just a lot of drama and a lot of bullshit. Well, so that's actually a pretty good story about Tyler Knows This. I mean, he's chatted with us a long time. You know, Jeremy Hammond, we're like, whatever, that guy's, he is what he is. And but he never got himself in trouble through 2600net. So, but he used to troll us constantly. And so, the frack article, you want to talk about that? Yeah. So it's obvious that, you know, pretty much, yeah. So yeah, the frack article was I guess a little bit about me, but most of it was like his very crazy interpretation of you know, just everyday, you know, person, you know, working in the real world, you know. I'm not going to make any comments if he ate out of garbage bins, but you know, he was into like recycling everything, and or his. Yeah, people like started to try to blame it on 2600. Oh, he chatted on 2600 all the time, so he got busted through us. Well, we don't log. The network's never been served with any process, and we keep it isolated that way. But when he got busted, people were saying that, and it took me a couple weeks because I didn't care a whole lot, but I read the complaint, and he had gotten busted on the private IRC server working with guys who were all logging, and he was using Tor with no encryption, and they would just time the times when he would connect and when he would go out harvesting and come back from. So, I mean, yeah, I control a little bit, but no. So like people try to blame the IRC network sometimes for stupid shit, and when it's their own fault, and that's a case. So I mean, Tyler Knows This. Yeah, he used to use it, and it's, you know, but that had nothing to do with us. I mean, we don't log that. We never gotten served. You know, what can I say about Tyler Knows This?
I want to say, hey, we used to host IRC places in the late 90s.
Yeah. No. Hey, I want more people involved with it. So, I mean, I try to tell people and explain to people how it's hosted and how we keep it away. And part of it's cloud hosted now, and some of it's on other infrastructure and dedicated data centers. But we keep it in such a fashion so it's not going to get rooted. The NICServe databases, we watch that really closely with all the hacks that are going on. So we try to keep the servers and the networks in such a way that we don't avoid those simple mistakes. Because it is just... Yeah, well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, only a half a day.
Right. That's a great day for me.
Yeah, half a day, man. Yeah, no,
Right.
that's
Oh,
how
yeah.
it started. And when I was hosting it with Shardy, I had data centers and I had T1s all over the place. And so it's like I was throwing up servers, and then this crack addict, like Rot 13 DK, whatever his name was, like he would DOS us all the time for weeks. And like it took out a lot of stuff. We just kept it going. And so I'm not too sad I have it now, but I don't want to like just let it die and languish. So the CCC people who like it and use it, and with the Chaos VPN and other hacker spaces, I think that it can grow and do a lot more enjoyment instead of all the trolls, you know. So, I mean, there's always groups that seem to come and go, and I thought about like listing them all over all the years, but it doesn't really matter. It's like, you guys know who you are. Like, and sometimes they just, you know, they'll come and go on their own. And like one guy, he came and trolled ridiculously, like when, you know, things changed in my life, like my hacker dog, he passed away, and he comes in like, Sid's dead, LOL. I was like, okay, dude. Like, all right, so fine. So, but the network, it's provided a lot of friendship and a lot of connections with many people. And that's what it's kind of based off of, regardless of all the BS. But, you know, and a lot of us are still friends, even though we control each other pretty damn good. But it's been interesting lately. You know, I thought with the little, what was that? What? With as little input I've gotten from Emmanuel, besides just pointing DNS to us and like the one news article about it in 2003.
Listed anymore in the mag?
No, it still is. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
still
it's in the
listed in
bag.
the mag, and he mentions it on the radio station when they're doing Off the Wall and Off the Hook. And so, I mean, I appreciate it. I thank him for giving us, you know, the opportunity to host it, and it's given me a voice for many years through many different chapters of my life. And so, I mean, I'm glad to be a part of it, and it's kind of cool. And I've managed and I've learned a lot about hosting ridiculous stuff, like he said, having to lie to providers and, you know, not even lie. It's like, no, it's not our botnet. Like,
Right.
you idiot. Like, well, did you reboot your server?
Right.
So, I mean, you deal with a lot of BS, and we try to keep it to the minimum, but, you know, it has its pros and cons, but I think it outweighs itself. So, even if these jackasses fit.
So the technical side, you guys are doing hybrid IRC?
Yeah, it's very minimally modified, only just so that it allows SSL and channel only. So what Hitman?
What was that? That's Billy.
Yeah. So we can always do SSL. You know, we've done minor modifications to the hybrid IRCD, and that's to keep it simple, maintainable. You know, so theoretically, any decent Linux admin could keep it maintained.
Does
And
that front page still have the listing of all the modifications?
yeah, so on scuttle.net, you can look at all the specifications of the software. You can download it and install it yourself, and it's all listed up there. So I mean, we keep it as transparent and as simple as possible.
Don't let Han win. Do not let him.
No, he's never Lincoln. He's just as much of a troll as you guys are. No, seriously, I swear to God, man, I love this guy, but
I was off for about 30 seconds.
because of OpenFly. So, and one thing I've established is that, you know, my dog Sid was with me throughout all this, and he learned how to IRC a bit. And so there's a bot for Sid Vicious, and even when people try to take over some of the channels, he can just instantly fix it all, and it's all with an OP bot serve, but represented is the dog there still. So he'll always watch you bastards, so. Mass ops for everyone, the People's Revolution, anonymous. So, but there's always like stupid shit people will say, like I'm a Fed or something. It's like, you know, I work with all kinds of different. Well, actually, I think it's because the majority of the people can be such dickheads talking to each other. There's like 170 other people in the channel who are afraid to say anything. So,
That's true.
and sometimes they'll PM me and they're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, just another day, dude. I'm going back to work. Just don't worry about it. But this dude, just whatever. Window closed. Window closed.
When someone calls you a CCNA.
Well, That's actually a great story that started when I was getting involved with these New York guys, and there was always a struggle of balancing channel moderation with like censorship, and at times there was some people who wanted to champion the bannings of certain words, and it was just of course when you try to ban it, everyone's going to use
Right,
it.
everybody
like,
immediately uses it.
So this created like this monstrous flame war on the mailing list and in the channels, and eventually some very smart people decided to do a little psyops and got the word changed to CCNA. So instead of like the N-word, we would just use CCNA, and everyone kind of thought for a long while that it was just they're talking about Cisco certs. So just as dirty, just as bad. So what was that one? Network Plus, well, the change from the N-word was to CCNA, and that lasted for a long time, and then the people who actually championed the censorship of said word learned very much later and was like, oh, that CCNA thing was pretty good. I mean, he probably thought he won the battle and wasn't, finally no one's going to say the N-word on 2600, but...
Remember, he could only search his buffer once.
Oh,
If somebody said that
was that what it, yeah. So...
CCNA, he couldn't find out that they said
Said it once, so yeah. CCNA, I mean, there's ways to mitigate or deal with the drama and the channel moderation, but we try to do it as minimal as possible until it's just ridiculous. So
Until it interferes with other people.
yeah, interferes with other people. Like when the Jester was on our channel, and eventually I just told that dude, like, you're cool and sort of, and thanks for using our RC network and bringing LulzSec and getting us DOS for it. Like,
Right.
You're cool and all, but get the fuck out of here. I mean, really. I let him stay for so long, and he like DM'd me, and I'm like, dude, don't Twitter me, dude. Like, but I'd chat with him. But never mind. Jester, eventually I had to ask him to leave when his users were like, their OPSEC and the way that they run their trolling and everything is so bad. They're all lying to each other, and they're all pasting each other logs, and the rumor was that we logged the network. And with all the chatter that comes out of the Jester and all those bastards on Twitter rattling on, it was just too much drama. So at that point I was like, all right, Jester, you're gone.
Right,
And I
dude,
published...
nothing personal. It's
Nothing personal, dude. Go use someplace, like use a darknet, use different, like don't bring the drama here. And he understood, and but sometimes you got to do that, and we try to keep it as open as possible. But when it negatively impacts the whole network and all the people in the different channels, then you're fucking out ski. So. And people like to come in from like hard chats. I hate to name them, but like their motto is like trolling and scrolling. So they come in and they scroll ASCII, and it's like woo. Yeah, they're like Mexican gangsters. DOS you on the way out, like boom, oh thanks. Get an email from text message. I'm out watching a movie. DOSed again, fucking bastards. It's like whatever. You keep it isolated, but sometimes we still host it on things that for other projects, and it's like my life with the Thrill Kill cult. Like hackers are kind of like a strange cult, and they do things for the thrill and sometimes just to fuck with each other. So that's why I labeled it that. Sometimes it's really crazy. I don't know what the hell you guys are doing, but I don't do that to you guys. But yeah, it's like people
Yeah, right.
come and go, and they troll and scroll and DDoS each other on the way out, and it's like it's just 2600. Relax, like it's bigger fights out there. So. Yeah, I mean, there's many different chapters that have come and gone, and it's crazy.
Do you think that's why Emmanuel doesn't get more involved?
Well, I think so, and I also appreciate that, because with all the politics related to that, but like he hasn't ever had to super get involved, and that's been cool. And
Right.
I always keep him updated and say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we need changed. And there's things that I'm looking to try to improve and hoping to talk with them more to get more involvement, more output, or representation every once in a while, news updates or Twitter or something. But there's a lot that we can do to grow it, and also just managing DNS and like simple things that it's stable, but we could do it a little bit better. So Mexican gangsters.
That's not all went downhill.
Oh no! When you showed up,
It moved in.
yeah. So, and I welcome other languages and other countries, but sometimes it's really hard to communicate with them. So,
No,
That's terrible. I'm not.
You should clue people in who really know that this is just trolling.
This is a lot of trolling here, so. So one thing that's happened too, and I'm not going to name any names or get into it much, but sometimes we've had to fine tailor the hosting or the staff members due to people changing their minds or having other affiliations, like you can't host the network and be trolling it at the same time. Like, okay, it's a little bit of a conflict. So, so we try to keep it as open as possible and work with close friends and people that we know. And, and the thing with like Ted, when he was hosting a hub and services, we barely knew his name or anything. And you guys call me the Fed. You can go drive up to my house and who is my domain and get my address and you want to come look how it's set up? Come and look, So we publish how it's configured and how it's set up, and we have a few good companies that keep it up and been able to learn how to keep the cost minimal, even though we can take 20 gigs per second of DDoS. So, but we use VPSs and a little bit of cloud hosting and dedicated servers and colos. So, and I keep the database servers or the services and the hubs hidden, but I am going to put up a public hub so that hackerspaces can connect to it, and with an easy application process or something. And there's a lot of good communities on there, and I want to try to keep going. So, despite all you trolling bastards.
You mentioned some of the channels.
Well, a lot of good channels. I mean, the big main 2600 channels, and they ran how E intended with the California 2600 or Canada 2600, Canada 2600, and we sometimes get other foreign countries, but there's Telefreak, there's
Pound your mom.
definitely the Pound Your Mom channel, that's a great one.
Telefreak is about Telefreak and phone stuff.
Phone stuff, yes. Yeah, phone free.
The Pound Hope channel, I encourage
What's on your neck mean?
the what? That was before me. So you're all old now. I've been doing this 10 years. you're talking about shit that happened 10 years longer than 10 years ago, and I'm getting old. 2600 France, they've actually stuck through a lot with it. And I get in there with my translator every once in a while and try to talk with them. I think I just frustrate them, and they're just like, stupid American. I know I can only translate it so much. But Sec News, a good friend a long time ago wrote a good news bot that just spews out tons of great news, and you'll see that come out of the Twitter. And and that actually started pretty funny with his troll bot named George, and then it became the news server for George. So we got more. So there's a lot of great channels and a lot of good communities on there. Radio Statler as well. Pound Flood, yeah. So if any of the trolls that have any good stories they want to tell or something, you guys are welcome to join. I invited everyone up here as far as channel ops and moderators and hosters and so on, but I guess me and Beaver, just the hosters have to deal with this bullshit, so. Talk about who? Quebec? Vivek. Oh. Well, there's all kinds of trolls from all kinds of countries. Even India.
Right.
Do you know?
Do you know? No, well, he's a good kid, I guess, yeah. If he could focus on one hack project for more than 6 hours, but he talked. He was one of the first people who connected to the Chaos VPN when I threw it out there. Yeah, I was like, wow, you crazy kid. And he's like, security! I was like, go, dude. It was, there's a lot of cool people on there, and just remind them to keep on their meds. And but we'll keep it up, but I want other people to get involved, and because it is a lot of drama, but it is a lot of fun. And yeah, so what was it?
DCC Start Keylogger.
Well, that's another funny one. DCC Start
man.
Keylogger. There's all kinds of people who are security professionals, and then they still don't know what that is. I'm not going to name any names, but and then Like, dude, just use SSL. And he's like, what do I need that for? And he's just, yeah. So I mean, some people hang around just to hang around with 2600 and not necessarily hackers, and that's pretty cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Just that's how I started like 20 years ago. I read the magazine. I didn't consider myself a hacker until like the cops raided me and they're like, "You dirty hacker!" And then I was like, "Fine, I'll be one." So I started hanging out with this, and the IRC just kind of went with it, man. It's just, I like hosting stuff and being a part of the community, and a lot of it is freaking crazy, but it's still cool. It's still a lot of fun. Use the mic more, Mike.
What channels are the F-serves in?
There are no F-serves. No, private channels can be ran however they want, but we try to warn people and keep their botnets off the network and not using CNCs like that. And
Yeah, we haven't really seen that as much anymore.
Well, even just recently, I saw people posting logs on Twitter about how they wrote a little mini botnet and they're using it for our channel for a CNC. So I had to go forbid the channel, like, you idiots. Like, F-serves are pretty badass if you get into it. I mean, I don't know if I forgot anything. I did want to kind of talk about, hosting stuff ancillary to 2600, like hosting a private shell server that, just for cool people to use, and then
you could.
So, like, I'm the rodent, right? And so I have a couple servers, Pinky and the Brain. So I put all the idiots on Pinky, and and I host the people that I really know and trust on Brain. And, so one day they're supposed to take over the world or something, but they're just lab rats. So a lot of drama can happen just by hosting this IRC network, including getting a server seized that had nothing to do with the IRC network, or, it's like, dude, you need a shell? I got nothing. I need a shell so bad. Like, all right, buddy. And, I tell people, encrypt your home directory. Don't do anything stupid through my box. Like, freaking port scan Russia for 10 minutes and find a box. Like, don't do it through my shell server. So, and I tried to fight that the best I could and went to the EFF and the ACLU and ended up paying for own legal services. But eventually, I wasn't going to go to jail for someone else's idiocy. So you have to, comply with the legal process. Eventually, they'll just come after you. So, stupid shell server could bring a whole lot of BS. So, there was a lot of crap about it, and I had to issue a press release for some ridiculousness. Like people knew about it even before I did. What was really, I wasn't keeping up on all the news of WikiLeaks and Anonymous and all this craziness was going on, and then I got these guys showing up, like, and what sucked the most is that I guess the feds were so blind, like they didn't go to the front web page that said it was a shell server, so they thought it was me. And so fortunately, through just being an InfraGard member and getting free training and just listening to what those guys are doing, they knew who I was and like called me. And they were like, "Hey, we should talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, this is strange." And I was already ready. I kind of knew it. I'd been through this before. And when they contacted me, I was like, "Well, sorry, like, there's 300 people that have access to that server. Like, I'm not going to talk to you without an attorney, and I'm an ISP, and and so I had to comply, but I also did everything I could to protect their privacy and fight as much as I could with little support. So I mean, I give a lot to the community, but then sometimes, like, when after all these years, I love the EFF and they do a lot of cool things, but like I called them up and I could barely get like a 2 email exchange, and they referred me to a $500 attorney that called me 3 days later. So like I already, through other people in the community, it gave me help and gave me the support and direction, and I was able to do what I could. But when I looked to that organization I loved, it was like kind of shitty. And I'm not talking crap about them. They do a lot of wonderful things and they have a purpose, but sometimes they could probably do a little bit better as far as giving a little more direction, either how
Really
to.
some advice, yeah.
You're about to get raided. What do you do? Like, just so I mean.
So you've been rated, the frequently asked question.
Yeah, so you've been rated. Welcome to 2600. Or the FBI. So, yeah.
Those were, I remember when all that stuff was going on, that was some interesting phone calls from Rodent around that time. I think it was a little bit after. and obviously a little bit stressed out about the whole thing. Luckily, ironically, I was helping him host Pinky, but they didn't want that particular version.
Yeah, it was
of
really
Pinky.
strange. I mean, and it's in my press release where I tried to explain that they went after the old hardware, not the current one, and it was I didn't even know where the hardware was. Like, you know, so
'Cause they wanted, yeah, that was kind of weird. So it wasn't even like the most current stuff. I mean, they wanted,
Yeah.
this old data.
well, and
But-
when I was
I'm like,
communicating,
I
with
wasn't even
them,
sure if they maybe even understood 100% what the hell was going on.
they didn't understand what was going on. I didn't either until like I realized what they're really trying to go after, and so you know, and they wanted to go after what was currently hosted, and I was like, no, don't go after my buddy Beeve. Like, what the fuck
Right,
are you guys
right.
thinking? Like, no. So, and for a long time, I couldn't talk about it because you know
Right.
a lot of people had been wrapped up in a lot of this BS, and you do the best you can to try to defend it, but you know.
Right.
So yeah, they went after old 10-year-old 20 gig failed Maxter hard drive, and that was like why we moved the server, because it was like
was dying.
within hours of dying, and I barely got a backup off of it and snapped it to a VM. I was like, thanks, B, for hosting this fucking piece of
and
shit.
then after this starts going down, I'm like, great, that's awesome. They're going to be coming to my place to find this stuff.
So I wasn't
Thanks,
gonna,
Rodent,
I wasn't
for-
gonna let it spill over to you. So I spent the
Which you
money on
didn't.
lawyers, and
Yeah.
it was what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't spill over, so yeah.
Yeah. So on the 2600 network, you will always see Sid Vicious on there, and that's what my talk was dedicated to, the community and the world's only hacker dog. So.
Oh, okay. So one of the things that we run on the 2600 network is Pound Telefreak, the Telefreak channel, which is mostly about voice over IP and phone freaking and things of that nature. And we typically get people from around the world to basically call into our PBX. We have an asterisk-based PBX. And with that, people can call in from around the world and talk about, voice over IP or just anything in general, just talk about crap. So what we have is whenever you join into the channel, we have several bots that actually interact with the PBX. So for instance, you can get onto the PBX in the channel or get onto the channel and then query the bot to find out if your buddies are logged in or talking on the conference at the particular time, or get statistics off of that. And that was just kind of a fun bot that we had worked on. So, yeah, it's fun.
Well, there we go. There we have it. Is there anything else?
I don't think so, unless I think between the heckling and the questions have probably already been answered.
Yeah.
Or is there more?
all your
I keep looking
trolling-
over that way for some reason. Oh, man.
Well, Pound Freak and our good friend Tron,
Everybody knows Tron, right?
the wannabe freak.
Come on. He's been doing this shit since you guys were in diapers, by the way. That's what he says.
He's been trolling longer than you guys. Yeah. So, any other stories or any other questions or trolls or? No, absolutely not. So there's Sid, world's only hacker dog. So, yeah. So, that's it. Thank you for listening. Use the damn network and use SSL. And don't do stupid shit through other people's fucking boxes.
And what's the URL again for people to find out more information?
Oh, you can go to scuttle.net and 2600.com and and irc.2600.net. Always connect. We use IPv6, IPv4, Chaos VPN, irc.2600.hack, and
two more.
what was it? Oh, another question? Yeah.
All right, so Shade S on IRC was asking me if anybody has some grass, so go find him.
Tell him to go ask Eyeball. I heard he's really good at finding it.
And the other thing is, my local 2600 channel has been abandoned. Is there any way I can?
Oh, absolutely. Just
All right.
message a channel op. So, yeah, just contact a channel operator, me, Beeve, the two British guys, Osiris and Dodgy Dave. and also Audios Mio. We can set any channel to anything you need. So
All right, man, thanks.
yeah, if they are abandoned, you can definitely take it over and use it. And if there's any trouble, we try to support it. So, what was your question? What?
But they're all there. How can they be here?
Oh, that's not as good. So, yeah, you need to contact Shades. He needs some help.
Johnny Christmas is a
No.
Remember the time he fell off the escalator?
Hey, you said if I brought 20 people to this talk, you would unban me? When can I expect that to be enacted? Right now.
He asked if he brought 20 people that he would get unbanned, and I would like to see the papers to that effect, so to see if anyone honored that or was. There we go. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. A BIOS boot, like kernel booting, like. So look, Sid took care of it, and he took out a whole Canadian ISP. That dog is vicious, I'm telling you. Come on, you guys can't do better than that? Like, trolling and scrolling? I mean, come on. There we go. CCNA. All right, so that's 2600.net. So, no, one thing I've heard is that like anything goes, and it's like, yeah, you can all have a good time and whatnot, but not anything fucking goes. Like, so there you have it. You want to just leave that up for another 10 minutes? Yeah.
We'll go, you got 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
I thought we were like done.
I thought we were done.
Oh, okay. Oh. No, I think we're done.
Go drink.
Everybody gets it.
Right, yeah.